There has been some great comments though on social media. You have built a beautiful fan base here. So I'm going to read some of them because I think it's important also for you to hear some positive stuff. So the first one is a thoroughly deserved win. Plenty of new fans in the UK after tonight. Eddie Hearn should sign Jamie quick time. Shannon Courtney got punished by the better fighter and for her own nonchalance. That's one of them. Second.
Thank you, whoever sent
that. You know what, I should have written the names down, but I didn't want to dig anyone out. Second one, if ever someone deserves success, it's this woman. Congratulations, Mitchell. That's beautiful. You totally outboxed Shannon. She won 2 rounds tops. And the last one, on behalf of British boxing fans, congratulations, champ. So coming here as the underdog, right? How does that feel to hear those comments from the British fight fans?
It feels great, man. Like, first of all, let me say this. From the second I got to where I was being housed, it was just so nice. Like, everybody, even people who didn't even know I was fighting, you know, people are just so nice out there. You know, they have a bad reputation, let me tell you. I don't know if it's just Liverpool is cooler than London or whatever, but
it is.
Yo, it was so, the people out there was so nice. You know what I mean? It's like they were even better than Americans. I'm not gonna even hold you. They were just really, really nice. And then even after the fight, it was like, yo, I'm like, oh, wait, who are you? Who are you? But I couldn't say that, you know what I mean? Because you know, people they want to talk to you. They want to vibe with you. You got to give them that right, because people in there betted on me and I ain't even know them from a can of paint.
Yeah.
Like you, real recognize real. So, and even before I even got to the UK, I say like a month before, my Instagram inbox was blowing up with messages. Please beat Shannon Courtney, please. I'm like, God dang, what did this girl do to these people that make them not like her? That's like, can you imagine how big the USA is and people in the USA begging you to come out here and beat me up when we fight on the Mayweather's promotions? Can you imagine? I was like, golly, I started feeling kind of bad for her. To all the UK fans out there who stood up and stood with me in this fight, leading up to this fight, before the fight, all the messages, all the positive, you know, the positivity that was thrown my way. And, you know, you guys don't know me from a can of paint. You know what I mean? And you guys have families out there and you guys believed in me. I appreciate that from the bottom of my heart.
I think people appreciate humility. They appreciate the fact that, you know, they've heard your story, and we'll get onto that in a second, but, you know, people hear a story, they know that someone's worked hard, they haven't been handed anything on the play. And I think people genuinely back for the underdog, don't they? So let's talk about your story. People may not know. I don't want to sort of skip over it, but I'm just going to try and keep it to the main points. So you were abandoned at 10 years old by your mother. Sorry, not 10 years old, 10 days old by your mother. Suffered from starvation, physical torture while you were in foster care. I mean, firstly, I'm going to be honest, when I first heard your story, you know, and you hear this a lot about people inspiring you, I think it's bandied around too much these days. But there was a, you know, there's a quietness about you, like I said it before, but a humility. And then I wondered, you know, was there any like specific times where you were overwhelmed in the past and you were taken to a negative place, but you have been able to rise up out of that? Because it seems like you've dealt with the past. As horrific as it is, it feels like you've dealt with the past. So I guess my question is, you know, when you've been in those negative places, what do you use? What do you rely on to pull you out of that?
God. You know
Simple.
what I mean? Like, yeah. even when I was in those dark times, there's been times where, I would go days and days without food, just and not because we couldn't afford food. That lady was getting paid great money to take care of all 8 of those kids. So she definitely had the money to get food. But I can remember where, it was like we weren't allowed to eat. We had to stay in our room all day. We had to sleep on the floor, but the beds were right there. If we peed on ourselves, we got whooped. Then there's times where she would let us eat, but then we had to eat on the floor, sitting on newspaper like we were dogs. And then she would give us cereal with, spoiled milk. And if we didn't eat it, she would whoop us. So, you know, a lot of dark times, being beat so bad you couldn't go to school because she didn't want nobody to see the bruises. You know, then on holidays you couldn't wait because everybody came over and that was your time to beg for seconds and thirds because you knew when they left that she wasn't gonna give you no more food. And then she would just look at you. If you asked for too much food, she would just look at you like, you're not supposed to be eating no way. A lot of crazy times where it's just like, by the time I was 10 years old, I was a force to be reckoned with. You know what I mean? I was 10 years old and I had my first, street fight with an 18-year-old that kept bullying me. And everything I'd ever been through, I snapped. So I made a promise to myself then, ain't nobody ever gonna do nothing wrong to me again. And, I just carry that with me now. And it's my job to take care of my son. Even now, it's like my son say I'm overprotective because he don't know what it's like to go through what I went through. And I'm gonna make sure he doesn't know what it's like. But, I'm gonna be honest, like I didn't went to schools. My son was in the 2nd grade. The teacher told him, "Oh, that's why you're not gonna make it to 3rd grade." And I heard he told me that. I picked him up from school. We got in the car, and he told me that before I could even get half a mile away. I made a U-turn so quick. I said, "Take me to your teacher." And I snapped on her. Come to find out, she's an alcoholic. But that's your problem. You gonna make sure my son gets to the 3rd grade. That's what you're gonna do. And so even with my son, I make sure like, when my back is turned, you still about to be taken care of. When you're at school, they're gonna be too scared to mistreat you. You know what I mean? And I think anybody coming up who suffered from things that I've been through or may be suffering from, just always know that don't give up. I went through some very, very, very dark times and I never needed a drug or alcohol or a pack of cigarettes to get me through these things. You have to have the strength here and in your soul to know that, we're not alone, you know what I mean? And we have to really grab on and believe that. Some people, they just can't take life. You know what I mean? And but that's what really got me through. Even when I didn't know, it was God that got me through it.
I find it astounding, number one, that you didn't turn to drugs, alcohol, something as anything as a crutch, because it just happens, doesn't it? Sometimes it just happens. And I think the most amazing thing about your story is the fact that you don't sit in victimhood, or it doesn't strike me as you sit in victimhood. It seems that you've gone, okay, well, this happened, it was shit, but I tell you what, number one, I'm going to learn from it. I'm not allowing any of my family and my kid go through that shit, but on top of that, I'm going to use it for fuel. That's the thing for me that's like quite incredible. I'm gonna be honest, it's quite incredible that you haven't thought, oh fuck it, do you know what I mean, and gone down a certain way. Is that what led you to boxing?
Yeah, and even in boxing, that's what I do. Like if me and you were in a bout and you're just points in times where you're kind of getting the better to me, and then the coach is cheering you on, I use the coach cheering you on to fuel me. And that's basically what I did with my past. I used it and I'm like, yo, this lady did this to me. ain't no way you could do what she did. You know what I mean? And it's just like, but what got me to boxing is I used to love fighting. Like the lady who did all these torturous things to me, she made me like fighting. I used to like, and I would never, ever, never, ever, I'm not condoning street fighting to nobody. Let me just put that out there. But I would never, ever beat nobody up for no reason. You had to be doing something to me. If you did this to me, if you scratched me, I'm coming for you. You know what I mean? But I would be my own judge in my fights. I swear, like I would judge like, oh man, I did that good. Oh man, next time I fight, I'm gonna do it like this. Like I used to love fighting. Like I used to love it. I used to love seeing how I could disfigure somebody's face. Only if they deserved it though. So I'm like, I didn't know, but yo, there's a place for that. MMA or boxing. So that's what kind of drove me to it. I used to like doing it. I used to like it.
You learn how to protect yourself from a young age. You've taken some shit, and then you've gone at some point you've gone, no, I'm not taking that anymore. And nobody can condemn anybody for that, to be honest with you.
Right.
And then you go into this fight. I think I've read somewhere or saw an interview that you went into this fight with Shannon where the father of your child was bereaved. Is that true?
Yeah, it's very true.
My condolences. I'm sorry that you've had to go through that. Did you ever think that, maybe you should postpone the fight, or was that literally, did it never enter your
like
mind?
I said earlier, my word is bond. So when I put my name on that contract, something would have had to happen to my son in order for me to postpone the fight, because my son is first. As long as my son is good, it used to be boxing and then me, but now it's boxing. Now it's my son and then boxing. So no, I didn't think of postponing the fight. I was just thinking in my mind to make sure my son was good. And it's just so interesting how my son, honestly, I don't know how, but maybe it's just his father up there looking out for him, but he's taking it better than me. At night, like there's times where I just cry because, he's also my best friend. Even though, I was young when I got with my son's father. I was 19 and he was 36. So I was, fresh out of the system. I've been in the system since I was 10 days all the way till I was 18. I get out and then I meet this man who is confessing his love for me. And I'm just like, I'm trying to live life. I just got out the system. I'm not trying to be held down and stuff like that. But he was he's the best man I ever had. I messed up that relationship because of my immaturity and because I was just trying to be free. I've been locked up all my life, being told when to use the restroom, when to eat, when to go to bed. No, you can't. Yes, you can. Mother, may I? No, you may not. To being able to go in the refrigerator when I want to, being able to go to sleep and stay up as long as I want. The last thing I want is to be in a relationship, because in a relationship, you have to follow rules in a relationship for the relationship to be successful, and I just, at that point in time, I'm 19 years old. I didn't want to do that. You know what I mean? But we had a beautiful baby when I was 23 or 24 or something like that. And he just loved me no matter what. You know what I mean? My son's father, he loved me. He was there. You know what I mean? I don't have one of these stories where the baby mama drama. I don't have that to tell nobody. Like, he was a really good man. You know what I mean? And he really cared for me, even though it's like I wasn't the best of girlfriends. You know what I mean? And for that, it's like he was my best friend. I mean, he would come out here to Vegas because I moved to Vegas for boxing. And when I first moved here, he came, and we're not together at this point. To remind you guys, we're broken up. We're just parenting our child. But he came and bought all this stuff for my house. And that's the kind of man he is, not just to me, but for everybody. He's a guy that starts a party and brings everybody something. He reminds me of myself. The picture's always bigger than him, and so, You know, he would always be there for our son, you know, talking to him, taking him fishing, you know, taking him away. Cause I was always, you know, moms, they're always like, they think they had the baby all by themselves, you know? So we want everything to do with it. And, you know, he even wanted to take my son so that I can follow boxing. This is when I was trying to go to the Olympics 2016. He says, you know, baby, you know, let me have him and you just worry about your boxing career. And then he works for the city of Monterey. To remind you, he's not American. He's Indian. He's from Fiji Islands. He came from such a poor country. I mean, poor. I mean, like Africa poor. And made a living for himself, started off cleaning toilets, graduated to sweeping, and then ended up being the building maintenance, getting paid buku dollars an hour. You know, and I never ever said, I'm gonna put you on child support or I'm gonna do this. It's like we always had word of mouth. Hey, I'm gonna need you to do this. Hey, Sahi has an orthodontist appointment coming up. I need you to pay for his braces. Not because I need you to do it because I don't have the money. I need you to do it because you're his father. And he would do it. Never either he didn't have the money or he would do it. And if he didn't have the money as a baby, you go ahead and pay for it and I'll give you the money later. We had a beautiful relationship like that. You know what I mean? And he would be there for me when I wasn't doing good with certain things, you know, being able to talk to me and stuff like that. We were like really good friends. Like he was my best friend, you know? So when I got the call, it was a Wednesday and I was in the gym and I was working for Shannon Courtney. And it was, he was in a hospital, got found, you know, in the house, throwing up, not breathing, not responsive. And the ambulance came and took him to the hospital. He was on life support for 3 weeks. So, you know, when I had that fight with Shannon Courtney, I dedicated that to my son's father, Yamandra Prasad. Because he had one hell of a fight the last 3 weeks of his life. He had one hell of a fight, you know, and he fought harder than I would ever. I mean, I had started training for this fight in June or July when I got the call. He fought harder than I did in those months. You know what I mean? And we know he did because you have a choice, I believe, to either go ahead and pass over or stay here. And he was trying to do what he could to stay here. And yeah, it's hard, you know what I mean? It's hard. But even with that magnitude of a fight, because that's a big fight for me, you know, so far in my career, that has been the biggest. I'm sure there's going to be even bigger steps that I have to take. But his death could have really messed me up. But I had to really focus. I haven't had the time to grieve. Only thing I've been able to do is just train and make sure my son wasn't slipping and his schooling and stuff like that, and making sure he was good in his spirit. And hey, Sahi, do you want to go see your father be in a coma? No, I don't want to see my dad like that, you know? Hey, Sahi, the funeral was on the 7th, remember. I fought on the 9th. But me and my son had that communication. Yo, listen, Papa's coming out here. If you want to go to the funeral, I'll make sure he drives you 8 hours away, because we live 8 hours away from each other, to that funeral. He says, I don't want to see my dad. I don't want to see him like that. Because he spoke to his father the night before, which was a Tuesday. Was it a Tuesday? Yeah, it was a Tuesday. They spoke for 45 minutes. I had called his dad. I was like, hey, what are you doing? Da-da-da-da. And he's like, oh, nothing, just laying down, you know, resting or whatever. I was like, okay, well, here is Sahi. So I gave him the phone and they spoke for 45 minutes. I didn't know that was the last time I was going to speak to him. And I went to go for my night jog that my little 3 or 4 mile run that I do. I didn't think nothing, you know, and then boom, the next day that happens, you know. So life is short, you know, you have to, and that's why I tell my son, you know, you make sure you give me my hugs and my kisses. You just don't never know. I could roll for a run and get hit by a car and that could be the end of me. You know, I could die too, but I'm like, yo, the point I'm trying to make to you is you just never know. Life is precious. You know what I mean? And it you know, all respects to my son's father. I like I said, I don't have one of these, oh, he did this, he cheated on me, I did this. I don't have that story to give. You know what I mean? And so much respect for him, and I know he's there with me. You know what I mean? So, you know, my main thing now was just to make sure my son is good. You know.
You sound like you're really blessed by having him in your life. And
it's my good luck charm.
And do you think that you know, is that the first time that you've kind of experienced unconditional love? I mean, obviously, apart from your son.
From a man, yeah. Yeah.
I'm actually really glad that you had the chance to have somebody like that in your life after, you know, all the shit that you've been through. You talk about that you hope that you have touched some people and you've inspired people. So firstly, I'd like to say thank you for sharing, because listen, I don't think that's probably very easy to do, but you have inspired a lot of us in terms of just, you know, like I say, the fans that you've got here, it comes from, you know, listening to the way that you carry yourself, listening to what you've been through, and to seeing what you've done with that to get to where you are now. I've heard you say that, you know, you have to keep pushing, you have to keep pushing. What would you like to happen next? I mean, you're in the driving seat now. What would you like to happen next?
Well, already I have a great team in my, you know, coach Dewey Cooper and David Haynes, and my manager Brian Cohen. What I would like to happen next is I would like for Eddie Hearn to sign me to the team. You know what I mean? I like him to be a part of my team and helping my manager move my career in the right direction, because I'm 9-0 right now. And before I got with my manager, you know what I mean, I was 6-0, and I was doing all of that on my own. You know, taking fights. What is it? A few of those fights they took, I had to take in Mexico just to keep my tools sharp. You know what I mean? And people talk crap about, oh well, you know, this person was in Mexico fighting in Tijuana, or you know, but they forget Devin Haney did it, and so did Canelo.
Yeah,
Canelo did it.
Yeah,
you know, and there is many different ways to being successful in boxing. The ultimate way is the Olympics, and if sadly, not to drive anybody away from their dreams, not all of you guys are going to make it to the Olympics. You can be better than Floyd. I mean, there's a lot of Floyds walking around out here. There's a lot of Muhammad Ali. There's a lot of Mike Tyson. There's a lot of Clarissa Shields. There's a
100%.
lot of Queen Underwoods walking around in this game that just will not get the opportunity. Not because you're not good. You're better than them, but you just won't. It's just the way it is. The Olympics is one way of making your mark in the professional rankings. And if you don't get that, don't get down on yourself. There's different ways, and Tijuana, going to Tijuana and building your career is another. But just make sure when you go into Tijuana and building your career, make sure that you know inside of you, I'm better than this. Some people, they really like, I don't even like to talk about my fights in Mexico. There ain't nothing to brag about. You got to know that you really are one of the GOATs in the game while you doing that, you know. So maybe Eddie Hearn might sign me, maybe he won't. We don't know. We'll see. But like I said, you know, you can't do this on your own. And if you are doing on your own, it's only going to be for so long, because then you're going to get called out by somebody that's hungry. You know what I mean? And these promoters and these managers are there to protect your career and guide you and build you up and build your rankings up so that you can cash out and be, you know, successful and financially comfortable. So that is one of the things that I want to do with my career. Is I'm looking to have Eddie Hearn sign me, you know what I mean, and help me out and give me a fair shake in this game. You know what I mean? I know he signs American fighters because he deals heavily with Canelo. He signed Devin Haney. And these are all people who fought in Mexico. You know, and I just think with me being active You know what I mean? And me having these fights that's showing everybody my skills. What you guys see on October 9th is just a little sneak preview of who I am. It's a slideshow of what really I can bring to the game. You know what I mean? And everybody talking, oh, well, you know, Jamie Miracle, she's 36 years old. Well, listen, a woman doesn't touch her prime until she's 35. And a man is considered when he's 35 to be done. You know, a woman doesn't even touch her sexual prime until she's almost 40. So these women coming up behind me or that's in front of me, we different. We're a whole different era. And I just think that we too need a fair shake. Yes, women boxing and man boxing is like apples and oranges. You know what I mean? But when you got somebody like Brian that know what he doing, my manager, Brian Cohen, it's like, yo, you know what I mean? And you got somebody mixed with him like Eddie Hearn, I feel like I deserve a shake, you know. So that's the near future, you know. The future after that, I mean, I would love to be back in the UK fighting. You know what I mean?
I would be very surprised that you didn't get picked up by Eddie Hearn. I'm going to be honest. The whole thing about the 36-year-old, I don't even want to hear that because, you know, diets have changed, training systems have changed. I mean, that it is what it is. I think people want to believe that that's going to go against you, but if you've only had 9 professional fights, you haven't been, you know, battered and bruised and punched up in the ring, you know, you're good to go, you're fresh still. So they counted out Natasha Jonas at 36 and look what happened. You know what I mean? She came back. She showed that she's no pushover. Listen, you've totally inspired me. You know, I've met a lot of boxers over the years. I'm inspired by your story. I believe that you've put the work in. And I believe something really great is going to come your way. And I also believe that there are certain people that transcend the sport. And I think that you're going to be one of those people. Your next part of the journey is boxing, and then there's something else to come after that. Absolutely. Thanks ever so much for giving us your time. It's been an absolute pleasure, honestly. Look forward to seeing you in the ring soon.
Thank you guys for having me, and thank you so much.